Welcome in. It's the PHNX Cardinals podcast, your premier Arizona Cardinal podcast. Like and subscribe. Leave us a 5-star wherever you get your programming. Johnny Venerable, Brack. It's Tuesday, which means we bring in the expert, Brian Baldinger, NFL Network, NFL Insider, here to talk. Brian, we were talking off air, the best news imaginable. I mean, the Cardinals win a game, 13-point underdogs at home against the Dallas Cowboys. I mean, where do we even begin?
It was a great piece of coaching. I mean, that was the number one defense in football. That was a defense that was living on takeaways, sacks, defensive touchdowns. They didn't get any of that stuff. Very little of it. I mean, Micah got him a sack late in the game, but for the most part, I mean, he wasn't a factor in the game. They didn't let him be a factor. They popped a couple of runs like they did the week before. We're finding a lot more about Joshua Dobbs. I think anybody knew that not only is he, run 10 times 5 for first downs, but he's taken off and not when he's just running 44 yards. I mean, he's also able to elude the rush, keep plays alive, all the things that you have to be able to do in this business. I think that's part of it. And then, look, Jonathan Gamble's got some young coaches on his staff. I mean, I know Nick Rales a long time. Like those guys are listening to him. Guys are listening to their coaches. They're playing hard. We talked last week, guys, that there's no tanking going on. It's not happening. But then, in the second half, they got tested by Dallas, right? Mm-hmm. Because, we talked about it last week. Here they are against Washington. They can't finish these games, right? The New York Giants, and this week they finished. And what'd they do? The Cowboys went straight down the field 4 drives in a row. They're inside the 10-yard line 4 straight times in a row. Get an interception, stop on downs, held to 2 field goals. They couldn't score. Like, you got a Keltrell Clark out there, got a rookie against CeeDee Lamb. Like, guys are balling up, and it's a credit. You're seeing Kazir White, who was with Jonathan in Philadelphia. Man, the guy's a good player all over the field, intercepts the ball in the end zone. I mean, look, that was the difference this week versus the first 2 weeks. They finished where they had to finish, where they had to make those plays in the red zone, and they made them. And those are the type of games against – look, if you went and pick another team that's without a win, you'd feel good. But you beat the Dallas Cowboys that came in number 1 offense, number 1 defense. Like, you could say, okay, like what we're being taught, what we're being told is a winning formula.
I see Chris Ramos here in the chat saying favorite segment. It's my new favorite segment as well when we catch up with our guy, Brian Baldinger, of course, NFL Network, doing some great work across all city for us. Excited to talk to him each and every week. Unbelievable. And where to start? I mean, you kind of went on every single talking point I want to get into here, but Joshua Dobbs, I heard another analyst call it a potential career catapulting performance. What did you see from Dobbs, and what do you think that he can gain from the stellar performance he had on Sunday against the Cowboys?
Well, you can only grow and you can only improve in this business by playing. Like, it's an unusual sport. If you want to become a better free throw shooter, you can go in your basement or you out in the driveway and you can work on your free throws. The only way you get better at quarterbacking is by playing. And so we know that Josh, just intellectually and IQ, he's very smart. That's good. That's, there's all different levels of intelligence that can play this game. But that he can handle a great volume of information. But the key is you don't need to be a Mensa on the football field, but you have to be able to absorb information and know how to use it. And he's making good decisions. Hasn't thrown an interception, right? Making good decisions. He's seen the field really well. He's extending plays when he has to. And we've seen him get better each week. This is, he's only played, I think, 1 game before this, or maybe 2, I forget, in Tennessee. But honestly, we've seen him get better each week right now. And so it doesn't matter how you come to this league or how you got to where he's at. He's on his, 3rd or 4th team. He's been out of the league. Is all that stuff. It doesn't matter. He's getting an opportunity right now. And Jonathan saw something with Colt McCoy there and all preseason. He saw something. People question it. Okay. Well, he's answering a lot of those questions right now.
Baldy, we always hear there's a famous term like running the football is a mindset, right? You have to commit to running the football in the NFL if you want to succeed at it. And the Cardinals have not had a rushing attack, albeit through 3 games, comparable like in my adult lifetime. I've never seen them effectively run the football like this. 222 yards after 150 yards the prior week. Like, is it scheme? Is it personnel? I mean, They lead the NFL 20+ plays of run plays down the field. I think they've got like 8. I mean, where does that come from? Is because I know, like, I like Paris Johnson Jr., I like Will Hernandez. This isn't like Dallas's offensive line in like circa 2015. Like this has to be something more than that.
Well, I always say this. I mean, you could, okay, let's go isolate on Paris Johnson. Let's see how the rookie's doing. You could do that. I always try to evaluate offensive linemen as a group. Like, they play really well together. But if you're going to run for 222 against Dallas, I mean, first of all, all they want to do is rush the passer. So you kind of know that going in. Like, they want to run around blocks. They want to get upfield. They want to chase the quarterback, because that's what, that's how they got to the #1 defense. And that's how they've led the league in takeaways over the last 2 years. So that, let's go see if we full scoop the backside, if those defensive tackles inside can get off a block. Well, they couldn't get off a block. And really, it's never just the line. It's always the receiver. When you talk about popping 20-yard runs, it's always about perimeter blocking that gets you there. You need, whether it's Hollywood or Zach Ertz. I mean, I've seen Zach Ertz block better than I've ever seen Zach block before. Like, he couldn't block his shadow in some cases in Philadelphia, but he was fine with that. You can only honor one God. He was a receiver, but he looks like he's actually getting into it right now, and he's asked to be that second tight end in situations. But it's always the tight end and the receivers that help you get to that next level, like they have in some of those James Conner and Joshua Dobbs runs, and Rondale Moore for the touchdown. I mean, the way that they're running it, you get on the moving sidewalk with Rondale, he's just going to run right by that defense like he did.
We've gotten in a little bit on Nick Rollis already twice in your 2 appearances on the show, but we haven't talked too much about Drew Petzing. And I don't know what you know about the 35-year-old offensive coordinator for quarterback coach for the Cleveland Browns, but I mean, he's the architect of these big plays, these 7 explosives from Sunday, big 69-yard pass and catch with Michael Wilson, where I don't know if I've seen somebody that wide open before outside of Tyreek Hill at the NFL level. What are you seeing schematically that Drew Petzing is doing so well that's putting this offense in a position, especially in the first half? Like, Baldy, they've had 10 consecutive drives in the first half where they've been in a position to get points. And I got to imagine that a big credit to a first-year offensive coordinator in Petzing for that.
Well, what you need in this business is explosive plays. You've talked about it in the run game. You got to have it in the pass game. I've watched the Baltimore Ravens today. They can't get an explosive play. And that's why the Colts were able to beat them. You've got to take your shots. You're going to see Cleveland Browns. They got the #1 defense in football. I mean, it's just bombs away. Now, they're not completing a lot of them, but if you're not taking shots in this business right now, the way the Cardinals are, the way the good teams are, you're not going to get the defensive pass interference. You're not going to get the illegal hands to the face, illegal contact. I mean, you're not going to get those first downs and those big chunk plays down the field if you're not taking your shots. So it has to be part of the game plan. And so I feel like he's had a good idea about how to mix those in, because you can't have a steady diet of it. You can have a lot of long strikes too. I mean, it's a low percentage throw, but you still have to take them. And so they're connecting on a bunch of them. And that's a credit. Like, okay, these are our shot plays. Let's make sure that we build them in and that we use them. And we know, look, you typically shot plays come on first down, where you still have, if you don't make it, you still have 2 more downs to get the first down and hold on to the ball.
I think a lot of Cardinal fans are cautiously optimistic, Baldy, about how the season has started, but waiting for the proverbial other shoe to fall. And unfortunately, with Cliff Kingsbury's teams, that's what happened. As the year progressed, didn't really matter the talent level. The Cardinals, unfortunately, just couldn't keep up as the season went on, November, December football. Like, what they're doing right now, is this sustainable in your eyes? Can they keep this up over the next 14+ weeks when Kyler Murray returns? I mean, injuries notwithstanding, we can't predict that. But with what you see on tape, is this something that can carry them through the rest of this year, where they can remain a competitive team despite, let's just call it, some talent deficiencies right now?
Well, I think, they've got a good scheme. I mean, they come at you in a lot of different ways. I think the key right now is the secondary is playing well. Now, I know against the Giants, they gave up some big plays, and the Giants schemed those up. But for the most part, they've kind of kept things in front of them. They did certainly last week against Dallas. I mean, they kept CeeDee Lamb in check. I mean, guy caught 108 passes last year. He's their go-to guy. Brandon Cooks, Gallup, like those guys didn't beat him last week. So I think if you keep things in front of you, Jalen Thompson was, I mean, he's just an excellent safety. Let's just face it. Like the guy's a tackling machine. He's an excellent player. The player in the end zone was excellent. But, you know, I mean, you're playing like, look, Cottrell, I don't know if I'm pronouncing his name right, Clark out there.
Yeah.
Like he's a rookie, but, you know, he had some tough moments out there. You know, but the thing about if you have the right young guys, like they're going to make mistakes. They're going to get handsy. They're going to get called for pass interference. You're going to get those calls. It's going to happen. But if you have the right guys, they're going to grow from it. And they're going to be better players in week 12 than they are in week 3. You know, if they're the right mindset, the right type. And it looks like, because he defended CD in the end zone after those holding calls, like it looked like he was able to erase it and go on. But I just think they've got some possessed guys, you know, like sometimes, like I know Kazir White, like I know he started with the Chargers, coming out of West Virginia and Philadelphia. Like he's found a home, you know, he's not like they found a place for him, you know. Kayvon Wallace never found a home in Philly, never. He could never get on the field. They had good safeties. Like he's found a place. And so sometimes you just need hungry guys, you know, and I feel like they got a group of those guys. They're not listening to the noise. They're not listening to even our podcast. You know, is shoe going to drop or anything? Like, I think they're dialed in right now. And look, they got a hell of an opponent this week. They might be the most complete team in football. So, like, I don't know if they're going to get run out of the gym or not. But I don't think they will. And I don't think you'll see any quit. We saw a team down in South Florida. That's what it looked like it happened to them.
I mean, when you look at the next opponent, the San Francisco 49ers, I mean, similar to where the Cowboys were going into last week, you know, a high-powered offense, potent, obviously a good quarterback, and then a vaunted defense that can do a lot, and they lean on their star, like number 97 is compared to a guy like Micah Parsons that the Cardinals did relatively well against, gave up the 1 sack, but other than that, you know, they kept him from being a game breaker. What do you like? What can apply from last week to this week, or is it a completely different animal?
Well, I think it's different. I think San Francisco is far more complete. I mean, when you look at Fred Warner, Dre Greenlaw, I think they're the best tandem of linebackers in football. They generally don't make mistakes. Like, you have to beat them. Like, you know, like the Cowboys were in wrong gaps, and they played poorly up front. Like the 49ers don't play like that. They attack the line of scrimmage almost unlike any other team in this business. And they do force you into mistakes. And let's face it, the quarterback is, you know, he's Robert Redford in the natural right now. I mean, he hasn't thrown an interception in 7 games, you know, 7 straight games. It's uncanny. Yet he's still aggressive with the ball. Now, that's something to look forward to. Like, can you get your hands on the ball? Can you get him out of the pocket? Can you force him into a mistake? Like, I haven't seen anybody do it yet. But that's something I think the Cardinals, like, you know, you got to get quick pressure on him. He reacts quickly. He'll see the zero blitz, and he'll see all that free hitters coming, and he makes good decisions. But, you know, you've got to constantly challenge a player like that to try and disrupt his rhythm. Because if you allow him just to go through progressions, like he goes through them like a Ginsu knife through steak.
So we didn't have a chance to chat about this last week, and it still might be a little bit premature, Baldy. But, you know, Kyler Murray, we feel like is going to come back sometime soon, maybe hopefully in October. What do you think the coaching staff needs to see from Kyler Murray, not only in practice, but once he takes the field? Like, Dobbs has done a masterful job, and who knows, he may continue to build off of this. Most importantly, he's not turning the ball over, 0 interceptions. Like, Kyler Murray comes with a weighted price tag, $45 million, and there's a robust quarterback class next April. But they want Kyler Murray to be the guy. So, you know, what do you expect that they hope to see from him once he takes the field?
You see, I'm glad you asked me this, Johnny, because I tell you why. Because I said this when Gannon got the job. Like, Jonathan Gannon just watched Jalen Hurts make the biggest jump we've ever seen a quarterback make over the course of 3 years. We've never seen a quarterback go from where he was to an elite players where guys like Bill Belichick are saying he's the MVP of this league. And the only, like, and I happen to know Jalen a little bit, like, you're talking about a complete and total 100% commitment to the game. And so, I mean, I think John Gannon just has to look at Kyler Murray and goes, look, I don't care what you've done in the past. I don't care the type of things that you did or didn't do, that you got away, that you didn't get away with. All I know is if you want greatness, I know another quarterback from Texas. He's not from Allen, Texas. He's from Houston, Texas. and Jalen Hurts. And the only thing that's important to him is just winning games and the complete commitment to winning games. Everything about him is just that. Off season, during the season, practice, off days, like he's all in. And Jonathan Gannon knows what that looks like. And if Kyler doesn't give that to him, then I would say, look, find somebody else. Because that's what it takes. That's the only way you're going to be successful. And Kyler has the talent. He needs a full commitment. And the good thing is his head coach knows exactly what that looks like.
That's a great point. I mean, we've seen it so far during this kind of the honeymoon phase of this relationship, though. There seems to be a recommitment from Kyler Murray. We'll see what that looks like when he gets back on the grass. Hopefully soon. He'll be eligible to return from the PUP list. Last question for our guy, Brian Baldinger, who's going to join us every Tuesday here on PHNX Cardinals, is the Arizona Cardinals can shock the football world for a second consecutive week if they do this against the Niners.
Well, I think that you got to, however you can do it, you have to shorten the game. You can't allow this game to get away from you because they just have too many good players. They just pile on. So however you do it, you steal possession, you take it away. You have ball possession, long possessed drives. You've got to keep the ball away from this offense as much as you can. And you can't get behind against this team. You can't get 14 points behind. They're just almost impossible to come back on. So you got to go toe to toe with them, and you can't back down. And you have to execute at the highest level. If you look at a James Conner run last week or a Rondale Moore reverse, whatever, like they're perfectly executed plays. Like you can move the ball against San Francisco, but it takes that level of execution. And if you could do that, just in the moment, just execute at the highest level, then you could keep this thing close. If you could keep it close in this business, I mean, it always comes down to who makes a play at the end, if you could do that. And I would say that's the style and the mentality that they have to have against the 49ers. I
just want to say the Arizona Cardinals 1-0 since our guy Baldy started joining us on a weekly basis here at PHNX Cardinals. That's right. Baldy, thanks so much for stopping by and to talk with you next week.
I'll talk to you, Johnny. Take care, bro. Have a good week.